And we are back. Here I am, Fly Navarro, and today I am with my very, very dear friend, Charles Perry. Charles, how the hell are you today, sir?
Quite well, Fly, I guess. I'm still alive anyway, upright.
Well, before I forget, uh, I got a story to tell you, and then I have a salutations to send you. We are doing, I feel like we're extracting somebody from a live LZ right now. The Billfish Foundation had a satellite tag pop off this week, and it's sitting in a marsh in Fort Pierce somewhere. So they've been sharing everything online that, hey, there's a satellite tag floating along. If anybody sees it, pick it up. While I was sleeping last night, a buddy of mine that owns the Towboat US out of Fort Pierce, he's like, hey man, you want me to send my boys to go pick this thing up? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so I've been texting back and forth with him, and I'm like, Peter, I need Latin longs, and he's giving me Latin longs of his LZ.
You got so much going on, Fly. I don't know how you keep up with it.
It's been great. So then Peter calls me up and we've been chatting, he's telling me what's going on. And I'm like, hey, I gotta let you go. I'm doing a podcast with Charles Perry in about 15 minutes. He goes, oh my God, CP, he's one of my favorites. Please tell him I said hello. So this is me telling you, Peter Chabansai says hello.
Well, good on him. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you
So
find did he get the tag? That's the important part.
well, here's the thing. I don't know. So we've been. He put my buddy with Towboat US. He put it out to his boys at 6:30 this morning at their morning meeting. So hopefully, while we're on the podcast, I'll get a text message saying we found it, and
Good boy.
then we'll deal with it accordingly. Yeah. So this extraction is only 2.5 hours it's
Okay.
it's been great. It's funny because I'm an early riser, so I've been up since about 4, maybe a couple minutes before. So the first thing I do is I go through all my messages and my emails, and I just go through everything to make sure we're caught up. And I don't
You'll
have
never catch up, Fly. It's too much.
no, I never catch up, but I need to know. It's like triage. I'm sure you've seen it online. If you text me at 9 o'clock at night, I'm texting you back at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's me. I do
That's
that.
right.
I do
At
that.
4 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully, you won't be waking me up with
No,
it.
no. Well, see, it doesn't wake me up. I keep except for the World Cup, uh, I keep mine on silent all the time.
Yeah,
So you're not going
I
to
keep
wake me
mine
up.
on.
Yeah.
My mine comes on at 7. If I get a call before then, it's quiet.
What?
Speaking of tags, um, I don't know if I told you, but Robbie, the scientist for Barb Block, Dr.
Yeah.
Barbara Block, with the Tag a Giant program. This is a couple of years ago. He called me up and said he was in Tampa, Florida, down there where he lives, somewhere near Tampa anyway. And he said, look, there's a tag that's popped up off of Virginia Beach. And he said, this was January a couple of years ago. And he said, um, it looks like it's heading your way toward Oregon Inlet. And I said, well, keep me posted. I've got a boat. We'll go look for it. So called me up a day or so later and he said, look, that thing's only about 30 miles away from Oregon, northeast of Oregon Inlet. He said, it looks like it's still going your way. He says, I booked a flight. I'm coming into Norfolk tonight. I'll spend a night in Norfolk, see you at 7 o'clock in the morning. I said, fair enough. So we left out of Collington after a cup of coffee at 7 in the morning, went down to Oregon Inlet, and we took our last reading to where it was located, and it was about 20 some miles northeast of the inlet. So we ran our time out, and he put this new machine he's got, set it up on the hard top, and it started beeping, and he started shouting and hollering, oh man, we've got it, we got it. And I said, we ain't got nothing
You
yet.
ain't got
we're
shit. You
looking
got
for a we're looking for a little pencil sticking up out of the water, and you're talking about we got it. Anyway, we started doing grids, back and forth, and it would beep every, I think it was every 2 minutes or something. It would let us know, and so we kept doing that. Finally, we got where we knew we were real close, and took the boat right out of gear. he was looking and looking, and he said, "There it is." I could not believe it.
You
We found
found
that
it.
tag out there in the ocean and couldn't believe it. We were so happy.
How cool is that, though?
Yeah, I mean, and all is sticking up. The tag floats level with the surface. All sticking up is just an antenna. But it was cool. We got the tag, and we came back. He got in the car, wouldn't even spend the night. Got in the car, went back, and he was in Florida that night.
That's
He was
crazy.
back home.
It's funny because every year I always threaten Robbie, hey, let's get together for lunch. I'll grab Peter from the Billfish Foundation. I'll drive to Tampa. Let's have lunch. Because literally my entire tuna season, he's 200 yards away. And we text all tuna season long. Hey, what are you seeing over there? What am I seeing over here? Any
Yeah,
bites? And I always tell him, listen, if any of these, if you want any of these, I'll pass it out. We'll pass the rod
yeah,
over to you once we get the release. Just let me know. So him and I, we talk all the time.
yeah.
And but actually sit down and break bread together, we've never done it.
Oh man, I spent a lot of time with Robbie. He's great.
He's a great dude, man.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
great dude. And Barbara's great too. Barbara's great
Oh, it's
too.
wonderful. Yeah, I text her. We text quite a lot back and forth.
A couple of years ago, we had some issues with fisheries up in Canada, and they had been pulled over by fisheries. And because of they have some special permits and they have all kinds of special stuff. We're just, catch and release. Well, we hooked the fish, and our fish took off right to their boat and right to their net. And we're trying to keep from running into their net. So we got in between the net and the fish and forced the fish offshore. And Barbara's like, "You can't come over here. We're doing an experiment." I'm like, "I'm trying to. We're all we were trying to do is keep the fish away." Well, anyway, we got pulled over.
Tell the tuna it can't get over there.
Yeah. Well, we got pulled over and we were given a ticket by fisheries as well. It's like, hey man, we didn't have any control of, when you got a 800 pound fish on, it's not like you can pull him and tell him where to go. He's going to go where he wants to go.
That's that's for sure.
Yeah. So you've been working a lot for a long time with Barbara Block and Tag a Giant Foundation, haven't you?
Probably 25, 30, between 25 and 30 years. So when they first started, when Stewart got Barbara to come over to Hatteras, and because we had so many tunas there, back in 94, 95, whenever it was. And so, yeah, I've been working with them ever since then, off and on, not all the time, but whenever they come to here for sure. And I've been to Ireland a couple of times with her, and different places. Yeah,
It's
it's cool.
amazing. It's amazing to see what they've been able to do with that program. How they follow all the fish everywhere they go, how many different tags that they put on the fish. Do you guys do the full array of tags on them when you pull them in the boat?
Depends on the fish. The size of the fish makes a difference, and if it's the right size fish, sometimes it gets an archival tag and a satellite tag. The sat tag, of course, pops off, but the archival tag stays there until the fish is caught again. And now they're putting acoustic tags on them too. They've got a lot of receivers at different places in the ocean, So it's yeah. Well, there's three different types of tags. I haven't put on the toe tag yet. I don't know if they're putting any of those onto the tunas, but I'd love to see one of those go on.
That would be cool. That would be
Yeah.
way cool. I've seen pictures of the archival tag. Could you describe that so people understand what the archival tag is?
The archival tag is about a little bit bigger than the size of my thumb, with an antenna on it, and they put a little slit when they bring a tuna. Of course, when they bring a tuna in the boat, some people may not know, but they immediately we put the saltwater washdown hose in his mouth and cover his eyes. It seems covering his eyes. Out of all the tunas we've tagged, and she's tagged over 2,000. I've helped her tag probably 750 of them, and I don't think we've ever had a tuna to go off like you see a yellowfin or a bluefin. If you put them in the boat and don't cover their eyes or put a hose in their mouth, they start struggling for life. So by doing that, they usually stay pretty calm. and then we put a slit right above their tail hole and cut about a maybe an inch or so slit and put it looks like a cigar holder. We pushed that up in there to make a cavity in between the stomach cavity and the fatty tissue, and we pushed the tag up in there and then put a stitch on each side of it. All that takes about 45 seconds to a minute, and we turn the whole thing around and put it out. If we're putting a sat tag and a archival tag on, they're both quite often done at the same time. At the same time, we cut a small bit of fin or something off for a DNA sample, which she has DNA samples of so many fish now. Whenever we catch one here off Oregon Inlet, I cut the fin, a small piece of fin off and put it in a Ziploc and send it to her. She tells me where the fish was originated from. So it's pretty amazing the amount of knowledge and the amount of data that she's collected through the years is just phenomenal.
That's the part that's so cool. That's the part that's so cool is how much information you get by doing that.
Well, and what she does with the information, she's managed to have the um, spawning areas, which in the Med and in the Gulf, and of course there's other spawning areas they're pretty sure of now. But she's had those protected, which I think is one of the reasons that the bluefins have come back so much. I mean, there's a lot of bluefins now. We've
Oh,
this year have been unbelievable number of fish off from Virginia all the way to South Carolina. I mean, just all the way along. So it's pretty phenomenal, I think.
the last couple of years, in the early summer, into July and August, the amount of bluefins that you're seeing right off the beach off New Jersey, Long Island, Rhode Island, it's been incredible. And you and I yesterday, when I called you, we were talking about, and I'm okay to poo-poo anybody because this is my fucking podcast and I can say what I want. I'm, I've been, and I shared it with you yesterday, is that I'm definitely disappointed in National Marine Fisheries communication to the public. We last year in 2024, we went over our quota. We went over our quota by 50%. Our quota is like 300 metric tons, and we caught like 450 metric tons. So the way ICAT is set up, when you go over your quota, you have to replace it the following year.
Right, you make up for it.
You got to make up for it. And what National Marine Fisheries did is they cut everybody's quota on their boat down, and they never explained to everybody what was going on. And everybody, I can watch it online. I can see it on Facebook and Instagram and every other blog, bluefin tuna quota blog, and whatever it is that you're watching. Everybody's complaining. There's more tunas now than ever, and why are they cutting our daily retention limit? And it's like, guys, they're cutting your daily retention limit because there was some mistakes made and we have to repay it back. It's like taking out a home loan. You just got to pay it back. But I think they did a shitty job with letting everybody know.
Yeah, communications was poor. I have to agree.
You guys off of Oregon Inlet have a huge bluefin fishery in the wintertime.
It's
So
amazing. Yeah.
it's Christ, you guys got your own TV show now. You guys got this is the best part. And anybody that watches the show and is dramatized by it, uh, what is his name? Cliff Spencer does not need to sell that fish to make his mortgage payment. I know that for a fact. I I I know that for a fact. He's going to make his mortgage payment. He's safe. That's the part that kills me all the time. Oh my God, these guys need to make their mortgage payment. That motherfucker don't need to make his mortgage payment. Right now, while he's out fishing on that show, they're,
Well,
they're building
I
three
was what I
boats.
used. I watched it about twice, I think, when it first came out, and when I'm seeing the guys go in there and they got it in the cameras on them, and the guys core of the fish, and they took a look at it, and oh, it's just got this fatty tissue and it's worth $15 a pound or whatever it might say, and then they turn around when as soon as they cut the cameras off, they take it right over to Benny's and they get $7 a pound. I mean, it's all for public for show is what it is anyway. It's
the thing that I like about it is that it brings a piece of our industry to life.
Yeah,
That's the part I do enjoy. It brings a piece of our industry to life that people don't realize that fish that you're eating at the table is being caught by regular people, regular men and women that go out fishing every day, get the living shit kicked out of them. Freezer took us off, uh, but still have a good time doing it.
yeah, yeah. It does. At least it gives the novice a general idea of what's going on, and the actual catching of the fish, they have that, and that's pretty cool too sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I, no, listen, I understand. I've sat there. Oh my gosh, he's not going to pay his bills. That guy right there, he's paying his bills. Trust me, I know he
yeah.
is.
What gets me too is they decide ahead of time who's going to win the contest and all that, and they had the boats from up north to come down one season, and um, I forgot one of the boats from up north. They had one of them winning anyway. Um, Greg on the Fishing Frenzy, he caught more fish that season while the boats were here than all of their boats put together, but he didn't win. If
That's
there's
so
some tuna
funny.
out there, Frenzy can catch him. I guarantee you that.
Man, let me tell you, Greg is a fishy dude, man.
He studies it. It's real. He takes it to heart.
No, and he's a good dude. I've got a chance to hang out with him a little bit up at some of the fishery meetings up in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
When
I've
we get
been
to fight for it.
quite a few times with him. I'm going this Saturday. Um, I don't know if you probably know about the mini boats. You know what the mini boats are?
No.
Okay, well they're projects that they're about 5 foot long, and they're sailboats. There's projects that kids put together. They're called um, I forget, the miniboats.com is how you can find out about them.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a girl up in Pennsylvania that has a teacher that's had her kids to put one together each year, and she came down last year and went out with Frenzy, and we launched a boat out there, and it's out there going around somewhere and it has a GPS on it, and has a camera and all that. They're high tech now, and the kids can follow it and see where it goes every day. So they get a reading off of it. And
Whoa.
I think Noah's got involved now, and they get some information from it too. But anyway, there's quite a few of them out in Atlantic, and this Saturday we're putting out another one. Lisa, the teacher up in Pennsylvania, called me, and she comes down and stays here at the house, and she'll come down Friday night. We'll go out Saturday and launch this boat. And I think it's like the 12th or 13th one her children have done through the years. It's like a sixth and seventh grade one. When I put that little book together that I did about the history of the sport fishing and the boat building here on the Outer Banks at Big Fish Better Boats, um, when I put that together, um, the money that came from that, Jessica and I ended up getting one of those kits and donated it, like $5,000 or something, and we donated it to the school in Manio, and they kids put it together, and we launched it off there. It was pretty cool.
How long do they stay
It's
out
really a
there?
cool project for kids. Some of them for a couple of years. One of
Wow.
them, yeah, one of them went all the way up to Ireland that I know of. One went to Ireland, and one of Lisa's boats went to Ireland, and she took some of her kids and went to Ireland to visit with the kids that found it. So it's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, how cool. That's even better than message in a bottle, man.
Yeah, man, it's really
That's
cool.
pretty cool. And it stays together through whatever weather.
It's tough, man. They're really tough because it stays in a lot of and sometimes now they get some photographs from the camera. Every now and then they'll get a photograph and it's not pretty out there.
Oh,
It's a rough ocean and it stays right there. The way I found out about it was fishing the big rock on the with Terry Labonte on the shifting gears a couple of
uh,
years ago. We found one of them offshore, and of course, Pete, as soon as he saw it, he said, "Okay, Charles, I know you're gonna want to find this because I'm always collecting everything I find in the ocean." And we put it in the boat and called the before we ever got it in the boat. One of the guys had called the number on the little mini boat and found out what it was, and it had been put in by a group of kids down in South Carolina. So we ended up um, we ended up taking it in, and to Terry's credit, on the way in, he said, "Charles, maybe we shouldn't take. We're supposed to take it apart, and inside they've got addresses of all the kids, and we're supposed to contact them and all that." He said, "This thing hadn't been out but a couple of weeks or something." He said, "Why don't we take it back out there and put it out?" I said, "It's a great idea." So that's what we did. We relaunched it, and of course, we got to find out about them. So I've worked with the people the lady that Cassie that runs the operation, and it's been a lot of fun messing with those little mini boats.
oh man, you know what? Maybe I'll pull up the website and I'll reach out to her.
Yeah, check it out. It's
I'd love to get her on
miniboats.com.
here. I'd love to get her on here to talk about her project. That would be so
She would
cool.
love to talk to you about it. She's a cool lady, I'll tell you that. It's a nice operation, and it's all kids, usually about fifth and sixth graders. Sometimes older kids do it, but it's usually fifth and sixth graders that put this thing together, and they get to do all the work, and it comes with a worksheet and everything, how to put it together. It's really a cool project for kids.
Man, that's cool. Speaking of building boats, a couple of years ago, I was up in your neck of the woods and I deservedly so, I got a tongue lashing from you that I went into Dare County and I did not call you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that
I,
quite well.
yeah,
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 don't do that anymore.
yeah. No, no, never again. It's funny because the superintendent of schools and the assistant superintendent of schools and it was so weird that I get contacted. But there's a weird loophole to this. So the assistant superintendent of Dare County Schools, her husband, his brother is my best friend. So they wanted to do a boat.
Wow.
Yeah, they wanted to do a boat building class. So she didn't know anything about it. And so she reached out to me and she's like, "Do you think you could help us?" And I'm like, I'm happy to help, but you guys do know where you're at. I don't know why this guy from Florida is coming up. You're in Dare County, some of the best boat builders. So I go up there, and as I'm talking to to the superintendent, he knows you. You guys grew up together or something.
That's right. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. Mr. Bass Knight. He was
Yeah.
he was he was a mascot for us when we played when I was in his father was my coach and he was a mascot for us when I played basketball in high school.
How
And
cool is that?
my mother sewed him a little suit that matched our suits. So he yeah, yeah. Stevie
Uh,
Bass Knight's a great guy, that's for sure.
he's super cool dude, and now they have the program going. I guess they're building the boat over at
Well, see,
John
that was
Bayless's
another thing
place.
when I was going to get this boat, I was going to I was going to give it to the school out here, First Flight School, because they were close, and I wanted to keep checking on it and see how they build. Well, or Stevie Bass Knight, the superintendent of schools, talked me into taking it to Manio because they have started a boat building class, and I think it came after you were there. They started a boat building class in the high school, and he felt like that putting this boat together would help create interest in some of the younger kids to when they get to high school maybe take the boat building class, which is a good idea.
It's so kill, and ironically, uh, her husband, my best friend's brother, is now the principal of Manio High School. which I think
Yeah.
is, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. I go,
I ought to give you a reason to come up here and visit me some more. See.
listen, I should, the biggest reason I need is to go clamming with you. I need to go clamming with you. Listen,
Oh
one of
yeah,
my
man.
favorite stories is you and I playing the green buoy in Oregon in the
In the dark,
dark.
waving boats around us. Yeah, because the channel had changed.
Captain Bull Tolson, I'm like, does he see us? He's like, he's got to see us. Are you sure he sees us? He's coming right here. And he pulls up. He goes, are you guys going to get clams today?
Yeah, he was headed offshore. He had just gotten back from Bermuda, so he didn't know the channel had changed, I think.
A lot of people didn't know. I guess
Uh,
it was a
man,
storm or
people tell
something.
me all the time, they said, you know, if you go in Oregon Inlet, you got to have local knowledge. Well, local knowledge is if you went out that morning, maybe, because it might change during the day.
It changes it's amazing how fast that place changes.
Yeah, a lot of current, a lot of water goes in and out that inlet every day. That's for sure.
Man. I want to go back a little bit to the bluefin fishery when you and Stewart and Barkey were catching them. Um, how did I remember as a young man, at first in this industry, it was like this poof. People were catching 50 and 60 giant bluefins in a day. Uh, what, talk to the people that maybe listening that have never heard about it. That
It
little
was,
special 4 or 5 years that was just completely amazing.
well, it was, oh man, Osprey just flew in there and grabbed a piece of wood and built it in his nest. That's great. Sorry.
No, it's all good,
It was,
man.
it was, uh, it was, I think 94, 95, and it was not Barkey. Barkey was, he was who I fished with Stewart, but it was Peter B. And I was really when we first went down there to off of Hatteras to look for them. We'd heard they were there, and Paul Spencer had. It was back when he had the charter business. He had the Sizzler, and I was on working on the deck with him, and we went down there and on those wrecks down there off of Hatteras, the bluefins were as thick as they. We had not seen anything like that. I had fished quite a few seasons in the Bahamas fishing down there, and one couple of years I fished with Danny Bear quite a bit on the Bushwhacker, and a couple of years we were top boat with like 30 or 31 fish for the whole season. We really thought we'd done something, you know. Well, come up here off Carolina when those bluefins showed up, we were catching 25 and 30 a day. It was crazy. And those fish they were on the wrecks originally eating those bluefish, we're pretty sure, because there were so many bluefish out there, the big bluefish. And but once we started going to those wrecks and carrying those pallets of fatbacks out there and started feeding them, you could go there in the morning, and as soon as you slowed the boat down, the first fatback to hit the water, they were there. They'd hear the boat coming, I know, and it was like a feeding thing. They knew they were going to get fed. And of course, every boat, there was only, 5 or 6 boats to begin with. Then they got to be more later. But when those boats would show up, every boat would have a pallets of fatbacks, and they would be feeding them, you know. So those fish they got trained real quick, you know. And
Man.
yeah, we when Peter came up and saw it, it was funny because I was calling him and he was down in Florida, and I was telling him how many we were catching. And he said, "You know, yeah." One day we caught 8, you know, and I told him we caught 8. And the next day I said, "Yeah, we caught 13 today." "You caught 13 bluefins?" He said he couldn't believe it, you know. And he jumped in the car and came up there, and when he went out first day and saw how many it was, he went back to Florida and got the Raptor, um, his doctor friend's boat, and brought that up there, and we fished out of that. And I can't remember exactly, but I think in 16 days fishing, I think we caught 400 and some. And
Jesus.
and one day, Stewart, when he came, we called Stewart and told him if he wanted to test some tackle, he needed to come over there. So he showed up at Hatteras, and we were at that time we were kind of seeing who could catch the most, and he said, "All right, boys, if you guys he said, if you want to go out there and see how many you'll catch, he said, I'll catch as many. I'll sit in the chair and catch as many as you put me on." And so the next day we went out there and I had Gary Stuve, Charlie Hayden, and Peter Wright running the boat. Gary Stuve and I were taking turns wiring the fish. And Stewart sat in the chair for 11 and a half hours, had one swallow of Coke and two bites of a sandwich in 11 and a half hours and caught 73 bluefins.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think they'll ever bite that good again, so I don't think anybody will ever top that. But it was unbelievable. It was like one fish right after another. It's just sometimes we'd have one on the leader, and I'd snap another leader on, throw it out, and Stuart would have another one on the rod. And of course, we had a cow sheets reel that was converted. We had 90 pounds, about 92 pounds of drag right in the corner, and still have free spool. So
Oh,
we had the right equipment and we had the right
oh.
guy running the boat.
Well, and you had the right angler in the chair.
Had
I
the
mean,
right angler. Everybody knows knew Stewart as so much for his light tackle fishing because that's a lot of where his world record blue marlins were caught, where a lot of his records were in light tackle. But he was a hell of an angler because his heavy tackle fishing was phenomenal. I mean, he was amazing. Quite the angler, that's for sure. He was a real pleasure to fish with.
oh my God, he came fishing with us, and I told you I've been waiting to tell this story, and I was never going to tell this story unless you were on here with me, because you have an equal story in Madeira, but he came down to fish with us in St. Thomas, and it was Jim, Pete Buenas, and Stewart on the boat, and back then
Yeah,
I was.
they were his buddies.
Oh my God. So I was in my early 30s. Every morning I'd get up and I'd run the hill behind the bar before we went fishing. And then during the day, because you got long days, I would do push-ups all day long. And he comes over to me and he's like, "Hey, how many of those you think you can do at a shot?" And I go, "I don't know. I just do until I'm tired. I don't even count." And he goes, "I'll bet you I can do more than you." And for anybody that's never met Stewart or seen him, by this time he was already in his 70s. He's not a big guy. He's
Not a big guy at all. No.
no. So uh, before I could politely say yes or no, Jim Lambert yells, "I'll take a piece of that action."
I bet.
So next thing you know, this became this fucking competition on the boat. And everybody's doing it. So everybody went, then I went. I think I got to like 37 or 30, 38. And for anybody that's done push-ups, to try to do push-ups in 6 foot seas,
Yeah.
it's not easy. So I get to whatever I get to, and then Stuart gets down on the ground and he starts going. And we're counting, and he's going, and he's going, and he's going. And he gets to 50. He turns his head and he looks at me. He goes, "Is that enough, or you want me to keep going?" I'm like, We're all good. We're all good." Then, like 6 months later, I'm at Gillespie's over by Merritt's Boatyard. And, typical being at the boatyard, all the crew, they get together and they go to lunch, all the different crews. So we walk into the golf course there, and I see Roy talking with somebody at lunch with white hair. And I didn't know who it was. I didn't know Stewart was in town. So I waved at Roy, and then we all sat down, a bunch of us deckhands. And as we're either waiting for lunch or I'm eating lunch, I feel a little tap on my shoulder. And just as I look around, there's Stuart. He goes, "Hey, you want a rematch?" I'm like, "Fuck no, man. I don't. I know better than this. I've been fucking hustled before by you, man."
Yes, sir. He was his upper body was amazing. He worked out all the time. He always stayed in good shape, and he wouldn't appear to be in that good of I mean, he wouldn't appear to be that strong, but he was amazing.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. And you had a story very similar. He pulled
Yeah,
out. He hustled
it wasn't in
somebody in
Madeira.
Madeira.
It was in Lanzarote.
Okay.
And when we first went there, I think it was the first year, and there was a guy there named Billy something. I don't know what Billy's last name was, who knows? He had about 3 or 4 different passports. He was a bit of a rogue, you know. You never knew about Billy, but he kind of fancied himself a badass, you know. So we called him Billy Badass, is what we called him all the time. And Stewart just takes a liking to him because he was, you know, crazy. So he went fishing with us, and we're out there fishing, and Stewart looks at me and he winks at me and he says, Charles, you do any pull-ups today? And I said, no, I'll try a few. So I went over there and I did 3 or 4 pull-ups. And I got to about a dozen, 15. Stuart and I have been doing them every day. When that express boat, there's a good eye in the steps. You had a bar over a hedge, you know, where the hardtop was on. So I went over there and grabbed it, and I got to about a dozen. I knew what Stuart was doing. He was setting Billy up, you know. So I'm straining real hard to get to number 12 or 13 or something. And finally, Stuart says, well, Billy says, you think you can do more than that? And Billy says, yeah, I can do more than you can. Stuart says, oh, yeah? He says, okay, go ahead. So Billy goes out there and he gets to about 15 or 16 or something, you know. And Stuart says, is that it? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, let me see if I'll give it a try. So Stewart just got up there and he started knocking them out. And I mean, he got up to about 40 something, and Billy's sitting there looking at him and he's staring, you know. And then he got up to about 50, and finally he got laughing. I got laughing too. He got laughing, and he finally quit at about 50 something. And
He got
when he
hustled.
got down, he turned around and he looked at Billy. Billy's just looked at him for a while and he said, you know what, Mr. Campbell, there's a lot more to you than meets the eye. And Barky and I said that to Stuart a many a time after
Oh
that.
my God.
Every time he would catch a fish or do something with, you know, it was pretty good, we'd say, Stuart, there's more to you than meets the eye.
He was unbelievable. You know, in life, we come across a lot of different people that teach us. Some people teach us things, some people don't. Some people just, you know, you spend some good time with. Stuart taught me something, not on purpose. It wasn't like he sat down, Fly, I want you to know this, but we were talking about fishing. And after spending, you know, those days with him fishing on the reel tight, what I learned from Stuart was we all have this same passion and love for fishing, but we all do it for a different reason. And Stewart had this engineering brain. So everything to him was about the engineering, tying his own knots, the tackle, how the boat was designed. He was
he
amazing with it.
he studied that fighting chair more than anybody I've ever seen. He was that I'd be up in the tower talking to Barky, and we look down there and Stuart would be on his back underneath there with a tape measure measuring something. So Stuart, is that going to help you catch this next fish? Oh, I was just thinking about something. I wanted to check it. You know? And that's the reason when um, Jerry Meredith called me about if I'd help him design a bucket harness. I told him, I said, absolutely. I said, if there's one thing I've learned from Stewart Campbell, it was about bucket harnesses, because he studied those kiddie harnesses like crazy, and the bucket harness. So I felt like it, you know, I knew I'd learned a lot about those sort of things from Stewart, because he was just constantly, like you said, he had an engineering mind. That's the way. And
He,
it was it was kind of funny because Marky and I wanted to give him a new idea or try something new. It was one of those deals where we had to go about it in a roundabout way to make it his idea, because he was slow to change his mind. You know, if you could prove him that it was better, he would do it, but it had to be his idea. So Mark and I spent a lot of time doing that. That's who
uh,
you need to get on here too. Is Mark? You need to talk with him.
well, no, we'll get him on. I told you when I spoke with you a couple of weeks ago, before I ever listen, I know Barky very well, but you're one of my dear, dear friends, and I wasn't going to have Barky on until I had you, or at least until you can 100% shoot me down. It's either you're coming on and talking with me, or there's no effing way I'm gonna be on there with you, Fly. So now that you're on and we're talking, I'll reach out. I also it's fun. You know who I was very surprised that said yes faster than I could imagine was Eddie Herbert. I
Oh,
call,
Eddie Herbert's great,
oh my God,
man.
I
He's
called
great.
Eddie and I said, hey Ed. Um, I want to talk to you about something. He was out fishing. I said, I'm not going to take long. He goes, hey, I've been watching your videos. They're great. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm calling. I want you to jump on the podcast. Oh, let me know. I want to go on. We can talk about all the shit we've done. And I'm like, Eddie, I try to keep it like 2.5 hours. Me and you, we're going to need like 7.
At
Uh,
least, and then some.
and it's so funny because to this day, I tell Miss Naomi, we've been together now 10 years. I go, babe, Captain Eddie is still my longest relationship. You got a ways to go. Me and Eddie, oh my gosh, the things that him and I have done together have been, yeah, I'm very blessed at something like that. I'm very,
Oh
very
yeah,
blessed
well,
at
how
that.
about myself as well? Like
You and
being able to work
Barkey,
with Peter B and Barkey for so many years, and it was yeah, real blessed to have
yeah,
that had that opportunity. Yeah,
you guys, how many world records did you get with Stewart?
yeah, Barkey knows. I don't remember exactly how many, but I know when he passed away, which was been about 14, 15 years ago, something like that. When he passed away, he had 5 blue marlin world records on different line classes, and I think he still has 3.
Okay.
And he's he had a couple of tuna records, and he's had and he had 5 spearfish records too. I think he's still got a couple of those.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really adamant about trying to make each fish a challenge. That's what the whole deal was, and so of course we've miscalled a few from time to time, but that
Ah,
that was going to happen. We'd have to try to get an idea of when the size of the fish we when he first came up, we would try to get an idea as to what tackle to throw. We used to have a rocket launcher with 4 rods sitting in it, and all 4 rods would have different line classes. So Marky would call for 8 kg, and he'd throw that or whatever. So it was it worked out real well.
that's yeah, I've done the light tackle stuff. It's tough.
Yeah,
It's
it's
tough.
trick fishing.
It's
You got to
what?
just it's trick fishing is what I call it.
Well,
Is what you got to do is keep trying. You got to have first off, you got to have a crew that can take advantage of an opportunity, and then you got to keep trying each or each line class, the target that you want. You got to keep trying that fish until a fish makes a mistake. If they don't make a mistake, the tackle the records now are so high. If a fish don't make a mistake, I don't think you're going to catch them. I mean, the fish wins. But if they make a mistake and you got a crew that can take advantage of that mistake, then you're going to, you can possibly make a record.
yeah, it's some of
If
these.
somebody breaks our 16-pound record, I want to hear the story, and it better be a good one. It will
What now?
be.
What's your 16 record right now?
It's 820 on 16.
Tell me the story.
Well, um, fish came up. Once again, we made a bad call.
Yeah.
Fish came up on this was in Africa, in the Ivory Coast, and we were fishing out of Grand Barrier, and we the fish came up on a short rigger, and Barky called. He hollered, 8 kg, 8 kg, and so we threw the bait. I used to grab the bait most of the time. I had the bait box, and Stewart would pick up the rod, and I'd throw the bait and go back to my because we had 2 short riggers that Barky controlled with electrics in the tower, and then 2 long riggers that uh, whoever my gaff man was and myself would go to each side. Anyway, he called 8 kg and the fish disappeared. So Stewart threw the 8 kg and he was standing there waiting. And when the fish came back up, Barky said, "Oh, damn, I made a mistake." He said, "Should have thrown the 30." And he said, "Go ahead, let's catch him anyway." And so I was on the left side. Whenever a record would come up, I'd put my left glove on because I used to use those big old heavy wiring fireman gloves, the leather gloves with
Yeah.
the shells on top of them. And so I'd put my right hand glove under my armpit and hold it and go to my rod so I could, because once you put those gloves on, you couldn't do much else, So I'd go there. And so anyway, I went and Stewart, I watched the fish eat, and I mean, he was just down. It was definitely, he was on. And Stewart come tight and he took off. And when he took off, he started heading right for my long rigger. And I went, oh no. And I'm cranking like crazy. I mean, just as hard as I can crank. And he went right by my rigger. I saw him go right by the bait. And he went on another 20 yards by it with his tail out the water, just flying. The water was just flying from behind him, you know. So as he got past there, I saw that he was getting it. You know, I knew the fight was on, so I just raised my arm, dropped my glove on the deck, and wound it up. Looked up at my roller tip, popped it out, reached down and picked it up, and turned around and put it in between. We had a little 30-foot 30-foot boat called a Maris that was built in Brazil, and twin Cummins in it. It was a good little boat, a little spinner boat. And so I dropped my glove, wound it up, picked up the rod and the lure, turned around, put it in between the engines. As I'm turning around, Stewart says, "Get ready, Charles, get ready." Well, I said, "Get ready." And I looked down at that glove on the floor, and as I turned around, the swivel was coming up by the covering board. And of course, in hindsight, what happened was that fish went by that lure. After I seen him go on by it a ways, he turned around and followed it back. He saw it, and that, you know, with whatever 8 pounds of, with 16 pounds, you got what 3, 4, 5 pounds of drag. That fish didn't feel that 820 pounds. He never felt anything. And he came back, and so there, when I went over there, it was. I could look down at there it was, and I reached out with my left hand and took a double wrap and reached under the covering board, and all hell broke loose.
You
He
held
just
onto it with one hand?
one hand. Stewart always loved telling it after that. He said, "Yeah, he said, if I got a big fish, I let Charles use 2 gloves. Most of the time, they don't need but one." You know, he would tell it. He'd tell people that all he needed to give me was one. But in hindsight, it wasn't me with the one glove. It did it. It was Barky with the boat,
Okay.
because that fish stayed there with his head out of the water, just doing this back and forth, back and forth. And he was shaking me off my feet. And then I'd get back on my feet, and I had my hand without the glove under the covering board holding on that. And Barky, that's the only one I could hear. I could hear him saying, "Hang in there, hang in there." And he kept easing the boat toward the fish, that easing the stern toward the fish, and give me a chance to get back on my feet and get that. And he's the answer to the whole deal. I mean, I was just lucky that I was able to hang on. But finally he stopped, and about 4 or 5 inches of his bill was sticking out of the water. It looked like bigger than a mop panel. I mean, it was, and then he started, here he coming out with a jump coming across the stern quarter. And my gaff man was Bert Garnsey, Barky's cousin, and he was 21 or 22 years old, about 6'2", and
Oh,
really put together. And all he wanted to do was kill one of these fish. He was dying to gaff one. Well, as a fish come across that corner, he was on the starboard side, and he started jumping across the stern, and he come out of the water, and I was stretching out, and I was just getting ready to dump it, and Bert come across my shoulder and hit him with gaff right in midair. It was a perfect shot. And
oh,
so I hung on, and we both went down in the corner, and Bert's hanging. His head's right by my ear, and he's going, "We got him, Charles. We got him."
we ain't got shit, man.
I said, "We ain't got shit." You kidding me? He's got us. Anyway,
Oh,
Barky jumped down there. It was another 20 minutes, I'm sure, before we were able to calm him down enough to get him in the boat.
oh
And
my God.
then we took him in and weighed him in a palm tree, and he weighed 820. And so it was just one of those deals where the fish made a mistake, and we were able to take advantage of it. Got lucky and was able to take advantage of that mistake, because when you like tackle fishing, it's trick fishing. That's what
Oh,
I call it.
listen, I think most people have seen the video where, what was it, Enrico Capozzi's sailfish turned back around and jumped in the boat. I think that was on 2 pound.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'll help.
that
That'll help cats through.
Yeah, just jump on it, get in the boat. Oh my gosh, one glove. Holy
Well,
smoke.
I looked down at the floor and I saw it there, but I knew I didn't have time to put it on. The swivel was right there. And of course, it was at 16 pound at 8 kg, that's only 15 foot a leader. So, that was our max. Double twisted leader, double twisted wire. It wasn't going to break. So I had to take a
You
wrap and
held
hang on.
on. You uh
Just got
you
lucky.
you taught me a saying once that to this day, I even saw a picture the other day and it popped to the top of my head was as long as you have your elbow bent, you're pulling. When your arm is straight, you're just fucking holding on.
That's right. And you can hold on a lot more than you can pull. So, as long as your elbow's bent, you got some reprieve. But when you're hanging on and your arm is locked up, you're just trying to hang on. If he shakes his head, you know, you might be getting a little damp. I've been there and
Oh,
done that.
or get some damage done. I a couple years
Yeah.
ago, I tore something in my shoulder on a bluefin. 100% my mistake. He was doing one of those pinwheels up, and I'm just kind of rolling my arm out, and I'm like, okay, it's almost to the top. It's almost to the top. Should I
And then
let
he
it
popped his
go?
gills.
That's exactly what that fucker did,
Yeah.
man. And
They pop
but
their gills, it
oh,
will ruin you. Yeah.
I tore something, and I felt it too. I
Oh
felt it
yeah.
right then and there. I'm like, man, on me. 100% on me. I was just waiting for him to roll back down, and I thought I was
Yeah.
going to do it, but like you said, he popped his gills, and it was like, son of
Well,
a
that pop in their gills is it's like if we're running as hard as we can go and we stop and take a deep breath. Well, that's what they're doing is taking a deep breath. They're popping their gills. But boy, when they pop their gills, it's a joke.
oh man, that wore me out.
Yeah.
Uh, and my body doesn't recover like it used to. I'm not 20 years old anymore.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Um, you you also and it's funny. I didn't push it out last year, but it seems like every 2 or 3 years, I the video comes back up in my cycle, and I post it up on the World Cups page. Your cockpit chaos, where Stewart got pulled over.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the most watched video clips in the history of our sport.
Yeah. It's been seen by a lot of people. That's for sure. It's been on two or three different TV shows through the years and stuff. And it was pretty cool because that after the day that it happened that night, of course, we went in and Stuart had to go to the hospital to get his he had waited so long his little finger was dislocated, sticking way up in his hand, and he had to have they ended up having to him, put him under to reset his finger. And
Uh-huh.
so he got back about 12. We were beginning to get worried because we got in probably about 6 or so, and he went to the hospital, and we were waiting and waiting, and no sign of Stewart. Got to be about 11:30, 12. We were beginning to get worried, because we knew he was okay. He was scratched up and cut up and stuff. But anyway, when he finally got back, and we said, "Well," Stewart said, "Look, that's a pretty tough day. Maybe we better hang in here tomorrow, or either get a late start." "No, we got to get out there," he said. "They're biting." And so the next day we go out, and he told me, he said, "Charles," he said, "this video that we're doing all this shooting for, and this is when back then nobody had cameras like he had paid quite a bit of money to put the cameras, one in the outrigger and one on the hardtop and that sort of thing." And so he said, "Nobody's you're the one that messes with this video." He said, "I'm going to give you all this video." And I went, "Wow, Stuart, that's pretty, that's really strong." He said, "I'm going to give you everything that we're shooting there. It's all going to be yours," which I have, which is incredible stuff because we had some good fishing that year. And he said, "All I'm going to tell you is I want you to make as much money as you can with it,"
That's good.
which was really nice. Yeah. So he didn't mind it being shown.
Yeah.
That
Would
just
you?
shows that somebody that was as good at it as anybody I've ever fished with could easily make a mistake too.
Yeah, no, listen,
They
we
get
all make
closer.
mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's
That's
just, uh, can we pay the price? You know? So,
that's right.
and for people that have seen the video and don't understand all the happenings other than watching Stewart go overboard, that was in Madeira, correct?
Yes, that was in Madeira.
And was that I remember seeing gas. Was that another fish that you were going for a world record?
Absolutely. That fish was, the fish was, it may not have made 1,000, but it was in the 900s. And the record at the time was eight something. And it was definitely a world record. When we first got it on, Stewart, he always was, whenever I would get the leader, he would make sure that the leader, because that double twisted wire, he'd make sure that the leader was out of my way behind me. And so he wouldn't look at the fish. He'd watch what I was doing, and clear the leader behind me from the chair. And so um, when the first time I got the leader, he said, as soon as I dumped it, the fish took off, and I had to dump it. When I dumped it, he said, "How big is he, Charles? How big is he?" That's what he would always say. And I'd say, "I don't know, Stuart, but he's definitely a record." I said, "This is the one we want on 30 pound." And so he said, so I had the leader like 5 or 6 times. I think it was the sixth time I had the leader, and he had to look at the fish. He couldn't stand it any longer, and so he stopped winding on the swivel, and the swivel was about that far from the tip. It was down 10, 12 inches from the tip, and he stopped winding. And of course, I had the leader, but the fish took off, and I had dumped it. When I had to dump the leader, it made 3 wraps around the tip of his rod, and he saw it, and you can see him reach up and try to get it off, and he couldn't get it off, so he pointed the rod at the fish, hoping it would come off, but it came tight at the same time and ripped the top 3 guides right off of the reel. And from one of the camera's points, you can see him hit the water in 3 different places. And the last one, he was already over the side, and the last one hit the water out where the fish jumped after he was over the
Oh,
stern. It was
mine.
crazy, but all 3 of those cameras got something different from the outrigger camera. You can see when he goes over, you can see him put his hand out, and he hit his covering board. That's what dislocated his little finger, and the kidney harness slipped up around his armpits, and that caused his head to go down and the reel to come up. When he went over, the reel came up and hit him in the face, and that's what he had 2 stitches over one eye and 3 over the other eye, and then he had 8 stitches in his lip.
Wow.
And when he popped up, the first thing I said was, "Stuart, give me a hand." And he said, "I'm okay. I know what I did wrong." He's telling me what he did wrong, and I go, "I don't care what you did wrong." And that's all you can say. "I know what I did wrong. I know what I did wrong." And when he's saying that, there's nothing but blood coming out of his mouth. And of course, he had a beard kind of like yours, except it was white. And I'm seeing all this blood coming out of his mouth. And I'm thinking, my first thought is internal injuries.
Yeah.
But he's talking to me. So I'm thinking, as long as he's talking to me, I need to get his hand, get him back in the boat. He told me later he should have gave me his hand. Said if he'd gave me his hand, I'd have probably reset his little finger for him, because I said, well, I wouldn't have turned it loose. Anyway, he didn't give me his hand. He swam around and got in the boat. But what I thought was blood coming from inside was his lip, where he'd busted. He had 8 stitches in his lip, and I couldn't see that that's what it was bleeding. But he ended up, of course, how when you get in the water and you get the least little cut and blood goes everywhere, and he
Everywhere.
looked terrible. I mean, he looked like blood was running down his face and everything. And it was, yeah, it was a bit scary for sure.
Did you guys end up fishing the rest of the day, or did you
No, no, no. Well, that was kind of at the end of the day.
Okay.
And no, we came straight in then, and he went to the hospital, got his finger reset.
That
And that's when we talked him into, after that, we talked him into letting Miss Nikki fish, because the 30 pound was already set up, and so just let Miss Nikki fish the 30 pound. And I think he'd end up, he put the bait out, he'd end up holding it, and I'd pull out a drop back, and she would just lock it up, leave it locked up, but it'd be a drop back laying in the water, and he'd drop it to the fish. And of course, that way we got him involved, and he was up for doing it. And either the second or third day we did it, Miss Nikki caught 3 fish that day. Two one of them was end up being the world record. I think it's still the world record now on 30 pound.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, she she ended up catching that world record. And the
That's
funny part was with the first fish we caught that day, we said, nah, he won't make it. He isn't big enough, you know. And Stewart kept saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. He said, you know, you gotta get a better estimate on these fish. So the next fish we hooked, she ended up having a backlash. We don't know how the backlash got in there, but anyway, we had a backlash, and Barky hollered down, can we overcome it? And Barky and I mean, Stewart and I both said no at the same time. So we just wound over top of it and roared back there and got the leader and got it, caught the fish, you know. And it was a nice one too. It was probably in that 700-pound range at the time. The record was six something, I think. And so the third fish we caught in the video that I've got, you could see that the Spencer Stratton was my gaff man, and he was there with the gaff, and he had it reaching out, and we were trying to decide whether we should take him or not. And it was a full 60 seconds from the time we could gaff him until we finally did gaff him. We just laid there alongside the boat, and Stewart finally said, if you guys want to catch a record, you better go ahead and take that fish. So we ended up taking him, and he was, I don't know, like 50, 60 pounds over the record. So Miss Nikki got her world record. It was cool.
listen, you made the right choice. That's
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you miss it by a little bit.
Oh man, I'm terrible at guessing them. That's the worst. If people say, you've seen plenty of them, how big is he? I said, got no idea.
There's a reason
Ask somebody else.
he's between 550 and 650. That's 20%, dude.
That's right.
That's 20%.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a big wide net, man. I don't. That's why I'm a big. I don't want to say a fan, but I don't like saying a weight. I'm a firm believer you can't say it if you don't weigh it. No, I'm not
Yeah.
guessing.
Well, that's for sure. It was funny because Skip was fishing. Skip Smith was fishing with us over in Madeira, and we had this fish on. He's out there jumping, you know, and Stewart said, "How big is he, Bark?" Marky said, "Oh, I don't know. He's between 3 and 4, I think." Skip walked out in the cockpit, looked up, and he said, "Barky, you'd be better off guessing their age than you would their weight." And we still remind Barky every now and then he'd be better off guessing their age and their weight.
Oh my God. Speaking of Skip, I was just telling somebody the story the other day. We were talking about the boats that the fact that people are catching these so many more blue marlins on these boats nowadays. And I'm like, there's something to be said when you're swinging a 52-inch wheel chasing a fish. You can go pretty damn fast. Well, Skip fished the Boy Scout with us once, and there was a fish going down sea. We were doing like 14.1 or 14.2 knots in reverse, and Uncle Skip was right there tight the whole time. He was keeping up with it. And I walked over because we had the GPS in the cockpit, and I'm like, holy smokes, we're doing 14 knots in reverse, and he's keeping up with it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
What amazes me now, and I guess it's because when you know, I'm old hat now, too old to cut the mustard still. But anyway, nowadays you never see anybody, and there's a lot of really, really good fishermen out there. I mean, excellent boat handlers and that sort of thing. And people never run the fish down anymore. Nobody turns and runs the fish down. Everybody backs up. It's
Everybody
backing up
likes to
all the
go
time.
go in
And it's
reverse. I
yeah,
don't
and
understand
to
it.
me it's like I don't either. That pointy end goes through a lot more easier through the water. And fair enough, you're going to cut one off every now and then. If you haven't cut one off, you haven't run many down. But it's so much. I mean, fishing in Australia with Peter B. And fishing with Barky. I mean, if a fish would get outside of the long rigger bait, Barky'd spin the boat around. He'd go after him, you know. And quite often, I'd get the leader when we would be going right alongside of the fish. The fish would, you know, it just makes sense to me to turn the boat and run the fish down. But You don't see it very much anymore.
No. The only thing that I like to run them down, and I was just telling somebody on the podcast the other day uh, that I got a call from Tiny Jason Walcott while I was running that boat in Hawaii. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm fucking pissed. I just ran one over. It's like, "What do you mean you ran one over?" I said, "Well, I misjudged the line. I ran over the line." And he actually quoted Barkey. He goes, if you've never run over a line, you haven't been running a boat long enough." And while I was on the phone
That's
with him,
right.
I got a bite on the left bridge teaser that we teased in, pitched a bait to, and I'm on the phone, so I just throw the phone down and chased him down, caught him. I don't know, 15 minutes, 12 minutes. And I go to put my
Yeah.
podcast or my music back on and I grab the phone. I'm like, fuck, I still have Tiny. I go, hello? And he's like, that was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. So he got to
Yeah,
witness the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And I
great.
know when I'm giant tuna fishing up in Nova Scotia, those lobster boats with the single screw, you can't go in reverse after them. We chase everything forward. We
Yeah,
chase
but
everything
if you're going in
forward.
reverse, you got to keep. I mean, the Oregon Inlet boys have done it for years because they got a lot of single screw boats there, and they got to pull forward and back up, and they got to get them on the side that the boat's going to back up. Your boat either backs one way or another, and so they got to get them in the right position to really back up to them. So
Yeah.
they run them down all the time.
I heard a
I guess that's
story.
where.
I heard a story you probably know better than I do. I think it was Rob Mahoney that was telling me the story where he's fishing with John Bayless on the Tar Heel, the single screw boat, that he literally had it down where you're starting to get the spread back out just as you're coming up to get the release on the sailfish down in Costa Rica. He's like, that single screw boat, you just make the turn on it, comes down the side. Okay, boys, start getting the spread back out. Grab the release, you're done.
Sure.
Done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's amazing, and the boat doesn't cavitate. You don't scare the fish. You're nice and quiet. That's just me, but that was the way I was taught. That was just the way I
Yeah.
was taught.
Well,
Now,
yeah, that's
uh,
the way I see it. It's hard
one
to
of
figure.
one of my favorite stories about catching a fish fast. Uh, you told me the story. You were in Australia, and I believe it was give or take 1,100 pounds, and you had it gaffed and tied off within 4 minutes from the bite.
Well, I probably told you the story, but um, with Peter B, the first 3,000 pound fish I caught was Peter B. Wright, of course. The first 3,000 pound fish I caught, we had gaffs in all three of them in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And that was because Peter had figured out exactly how to, to, to really kill them. I mean, we were efficient, quite an efficient killing machine. I mean, I've told Barkey many times. I said, we're the last of the fish assassins, and thank goodness nobody needs us anymore. Nobody really wants a fish assassin. But what we did was we, you've got these. Even in the scad, you'd have a 12-0, sometimes a 14-0 in the scad. But in the big baits, you'd have an 18 or 20-0 hook, great big giant, like it's a small gaff. And the fish would come up and eat the bait down. And with that automatic, we used to fish the automatic drop back. So the line's laying in the water. When it would come tight, Peter would go ahead just a little bit, make sure it come tight. When the line starts coming off the reel, as soon as it start coming off the reel, he'd start coming back. Well, what happens is the fish swallow the bait down in their gut. It would tear their gut, and they would come up. And the natural phenomena for a marlin, of course, is to regurgitate their stomach and get rid of whatever's bothering them, and then they can take their stomach back down. I've seen it. I've actually seen that happen more than once. And so when they would come up to the surface to try to regurgitate their stomach, a lot of times we'd be there and get the leader. So they're up there shaking their head and trying to regurgitate their stomach. And at the same time, we got the leader and pulling up there and stick a gaff in them. Now it gets crazy after that. But the first toothfish we caught, this was the first year that boat, that mauve colored boat that Frank Woodnut built called the Hooker. And it was the original Hooker, I think. And when we when the first two fish we caught, we got the gaffs in them in less than 5 minutes, but it was another 15, 20 minutes to calm them down, to be able to get them, be able to pull them in the boat. So the third fish we caught, and I think it was 11:20, I think 11:28 maybe. Um, we we ended up. Peter had already decided that you really don't catch a fish unless you close the door behind him. That's when you've caught him. When he's laying on the deck and you've closed the door behind him. So we're gonna catch one and close the door behind him in less than 5 minutes. That was their thing. So we used to have a rope that went up through the center window and run through a chalk up there and all the way around the anchor winch. And then we had, of course, it wasn't remote back then. We had wires that came down with the remote on hooked to wires, not electric wires all the way back to the cockpit. I mean, into the salon. So, and then we had the rope laid out with a pelican clip on it, and we had a hook that we put in the fish and take a couple of half hitches on the bill, and then had an eye in that rope, snap a pelican clip on there, and push the button, and away he comes. So we hooked this fish and didn't do anything. Went back there and got a gaff in him. One gaff, Peter said, "Get the hook, get the rope on him, get the rope on him." So we ended up putting a small hook in him, put two wraps, three half hitches on the bill, snap that thing on. He pushed the button, in the fish comes sliding in there. It was all dark and brown, like it was, but we'd only had him on just a couple of minutes, and pull him in the boat, shut the door, shut the effing door, He's going off, so we shut the door, and he said, we did it, yeah. We had shut the door behind one in less than 5 minutes. And he weighed
Wow.
1,028. And that fish came to life, and the color come back in it, and it went off, and I really thought it was going to break the deck out of that boat. And I tried to hit it with a club. It threw me in the corner 2 or 3 times. It threw me in the covering board. I'd get on there trying to hit him with a club. And every time when I would hit him, he would throw me off. I mean, it was crazy. I told Peter after that, I said, "That's it, Pete. We're not doing that anymore." I said, I'm not going to be part of that. It's way too dangerous. All the people went up in the salon to get out of the way. I mean, it went crazy. But we shut the door behind him in less than 5 minutes.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Crazy.
I remember one time you sent me a picture, or you either sent me a picture or you showed me a picture. I think it was you and Charlie Hayden. You had 3 fish over 900 in that little 31 Bertram, and you
No,
still
it wasn't a 31 Bertram. It was a Panawanica. It was I think the Panawanica was 50 foot, 51 foot. The boat that Garrick Agnew had. That was the first year I fished over there. Charlie Hayden was my mentor for sure, and we fished a 1-day tournament and had 3 fish, and I think they were all over 9. One might have been 8 something, 2 over 9, and another boat beat us. We come in second.
that was the best part.
That was it. Yeah. We had 3 fish laying in the boat. Yeah, I got a picture of that somewhere.
That's amazing. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about your first trip to Australia. One of the things I remember you telling me the story is that you toured Australia on a unicycle.
I don't know if you'd call it tour Australia on a unicycle. Yeah, I wasn't. You might not. You might have said I might not have been playing with a full deck at the time. I, when I came back from my little government paid vacation, I went back to school. I'll come back in September, I think, and went back to school. I came back in August, went back to school in September, back to East Carolina. And when I was there, I had a bicycle. I rode back and forth to class. And I was kind of living on the edge anyway, but my grades were pretty good. I was doing pretty good. Well, they were better than I did my first 2 years I was there socially, and I was trying to be a success, and that didn't help my academics any. But as I got to when I went to class one day when I was back in left my bike. I forgot to lock it up or didn't have time or something to come back out. My bike was gone. So I looked everywhere and I felt like somebody was playing a joke on me. Kept looking for it, couldn't find my bike. So I didn't know a whole lot of people there, and I was really not as sociable as I used to be. So I knew this one house right down the street from the apartment I had. Um, these guys, there was four guys that lived in this house, and I went down there, and they were the only ones I knew pretty well, and I figured it had to be them. So I went down there and I went busting into the house and I said, okay, which one of you guys that got my bike? I said, I'm over this now. I need my bicycle back. I said, the fun's over. And they all looked at me and they knew I was crazy. And they said, no, man, we don't have your bike. No way, you know? And I said, well, I wished I had a damn unicycle. I'd learned to ride that thing and said, dare somebody to take that. I'd take it right into class with me. And one of the boys sitting in the corner said, don't say that unless you mean it. Of course, I had to back it up, man. I said, I mean it. He said, well, I got one at home. I'll bring it here and you can have it. And so he brought his unicycle back the next week and gave it to me. And I learned to ride it after about 10 days of busting my ass right and left. Every time I'd go out in the afternoon and try to ride that thing, I'd get scratched up and torn up. Anyway, I finally learned to ride it. And I rode it back and forth to class. So after that year at school, I realized that everybody at school really, really hated anything about Vietnam, you know, and I didn't like to talk about it very much at all. So I just, that year I wasn't going to go back. I knew that. So I decided I'd already been to Australia while I was on my little government paid vacation. I went to Australia. So I said, I was going to go back to Australia. So I left in October after the season. I fished one whole season at Oregon Inlet, the only season in my life. I saved all the money I made. I made everything I made, and I left Oregon Inlet. And I left my home in Kitty Hawk with a backpack and a small brown bag riding the unicycle heading to Australia. and, and
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't very bright, wasn't operating fully. But anyway, ended up going to Hawaii and spending I used to surf a fair bit. And I went to Hawaii and spent a couple of weeks there living with a friend of mine and surfing a bit. And finally I thought to myself, I'm heading to Australia. I'm only halfway there. You know, I got to get on the road. So I went ahead and went to Australia and put my unicycle in a big round box and went to Australia and ended up going up to Mooloolaba and surfing for a while. And then when I left Mooloolaba, I hitched it was a good rig to get a ride is what it was. It ended up, you know, people would stop and pick you up. And in Australia, the first thing they'd say is, where's the circus, mate? That was the first thing out of their mouth. Where's the circus, mate? I'd say this is a one-man show. Here we go. But I ended up hitching 1,000 miles up the coast. And that's the first time I ever went to Cairns. And that was in 1972. And I ended up getting to Cairns. I didn't know when the season was. That's why I knew there was fishing there, but I didn't know when it was. So I ended up meeting Peter Bristow and Gordon Hellam, and they showed me a bunch of pictures and stuff. And it was in December. The season was over. And I said, well, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be back here next year. I said, I got to see some of these fish because the pictures they had, I'd caught quite a lot of blue marlin out of Oregon Inlet and Hatteras, but most of them were biggest ones would have been around 500, you know, and these pictures I'm looking at they're obviously 900,000 pound fish. And I said, I got to see this. So in 73, I went back for my first year. But that first year, speaking of the unicycle, when I got up to Cairns, I had that unicycle. The first thing I did was I got in the bed, got a bed and breakfast and left my backpack there and everything. I was going to ride down to the marina. And I started down to the marina and the cop pulled me over. And I went, man, what, you know, I was out on the road and he pulled me over. Man, he was reading me the riot act, told me to read off the statute in his book that said I couldn't use a vehicle without steerage and all that, you know. And I'm just trying to say, you know, I'm sorry. And finally, when I started talking, he said, you're a Yank. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, or you belong to such and such a company. And apparently there was a company there that had started using 3-wheel bikes, and he thought I was part of that company, and they were being a real hazard. And so once he found out that I was not part of that thing, then he He said, look, so just ride it on the Esplanade, and said, don't ride it out here on the road and all that. And he was really nice about it after that. So I didn't get a ticket, but I thought, man, I'm over this unicycle anyway. So I met a guy the next day on the Esplanade. I was out there riding my unicycle, and he was out jogging, and he come up there, and he wanted to ride. He wanted to try to ride the unicycle, and he kept trying to ride. And I told him, I said, man, it's just something you got to practice to learn how to ride it. Anyway, his name was Roger Chandler, and he was a teacher in an Aboriginal mission. That when you're in Kansas and you look straight across the waterway there's a mission called Yarrabah, and he was teaching the kids in Yarrabah, and he asked me if I wanted to go over to the Yarrabah with him. So I went over there and spent 2 days and 3 nights with the Aborigines, and it's pretty wild. It was a cultural shock, to say the least.
I can only
And
imagine.
anyway, there's a whole lot of stories that go with that. But anyway, I ended up giving him the unicycle. And so it was pretty cool. He was thrilled.
That's
That's
so
what I
cool.
left my unicycle. Yeah.
I, I've heard so many cool stories about you down in Australia. When I was down there, I had a couple people tell me stories where you would just put all your clothes in a Ziploc, jump in the water in your skivvies, and swim from one boat to the next, hanging out with people at night out behind the reef.
Well, yes, I did that. I have to admit, but it was those ladies, that stuff will
Makes you do
cause you to do
stupid
a lot of
things,
crazy
man.
things.
It makes you do stupid
Yeah.
things. I know.
And I used to, what I would do, this was kind of looking after myself, but I'd go, after I made the first couple of trips over there, I decided that the way to do it was, it was hard to be out there on the reef the whole season without having a lady friend. So I would go a week or so early for the season. I'd get over there in 1st of September or late August, and I'd find out what girls were going to be on the motherships, and I'd wine and dine them, be real nice. So I'd find me have a girlfriend while I was out on the reef, and that's what I would do. I'd put my clothes in a bag and get in my speedos, put my clothes in a bag, and tie them around my waist and swim over to the mothership at night, help them clean up the dishes and everything. Then I'd stay there until the next day. So it was kind of just trying to look after myself.
No, listen, man of necessity. I know. I kind of did the same thing in St. Thomas. We used to get there early, like April, May. So you found somebody that you wanted to hang out with for the season.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't want to waste a lot of energy in between the moons.
Well,
Chase.
there wasn't a real abundance of them out there on the reef during the season.
What?
And some of the seasons, I would end up going out in early part of September and didn't come back to land until end of November. The mothership
Wow.
would go into Cooktown and get supplies and stuff and refuel and stuff, and we'd be out fishing. And a lot of our charters would fly in and out on the seaplanes. So 2 or 3 different seasons, I'd end up being out there the whole season without coming in.
Wow. How many
But
seasons did you do
you had
down
to
there?
be somewhere. If you had to be somewhere, that was a good place to be. On the reef.
Listen, it's one of those special places.
It's one of the places I tell anybody that's really, really into fishing, they need to spend at least one season or part of a season at least over there on the reef, because it is unique to the rest of the world as far as I know.
It's one of the few places that you really feel like you're in Jurassic Park. At
Yep.
any moment, something that you've only heard about can happen.
There was something new, seemed like every day. And even the last few seasons that I went over there, I would see fish on the reef, especially when you're diving, you'd see stuff that you'd never seen before. Been there for that as many years as I spent there, and I would see new things all the time. And what used to be incredible to me is I could ask Peter B about it, and he'd know about it. He knew about everything that was there. He was like a walking encyclopedia of that reef. It was amazing.
He he was just a
His
walking
knowledge,
encyclopedia, period.
yeah, that's right, he was. But his knowledge of the Barrier Reef was it was unbelievable.
I, it's funny. I had a couple weeks ago, I had Kevin Nakamura on, and we were talking about Peter. And I specifically was telling him of a story of you and Peter and myself. We were down in Costa Rica for Marlin U, and whether you did it on purpose or accidentally, you got into some kind of drag conversation with Peter. And Peter, being opinionated, he was going to prove his point. And I'm like, I'm watching the two of you debate, have a conversation. And Peter was notorious where, listen, I'm just happy that I'm sitting in the pool with you guys, listening to the conversation. I'm not getting in the middle of this. You guys make me look like a fucking rookie. So Peter would literally change his position. So now that I'm in the between you guys, he goes, right fly? I go, I ain't in this fucking thing. Let me move. And I'd move. And then he'd get to debating with you again and he'd reposition himself. So I'm in the middle. He goes, right fly? I'm like, motherfucker, Peter, I'm gonna have to get out of the water.
Oh yeah, he was
Oh,
good at that.
he
Yeah,
was great, man. He was great.
yeah,
I would
he was pretty special in my life. Yeah,
I told Kevin that he didn't realize I met Peter when I was 15 years old. I did not know this was a profession. I had no clue that fishing, you could do this for a living. And I met him only because of the job I had in high school. Um, my boss at the time, the guy that I worked for, his father was a boat captain, and he worked for Richie and Christy Andrews that used to charter Peter all the time. And so Peter and Scotty would came down and I got an opportunity to meet Peter Wright. And again, I didn't even know who he was. And then afterwards, unlike the internet where you can Google somebody, it took whatever 6 months to kind of look things up. And it's like, holy shit, I met that guy.
yeah, he was pretty special.
Very special guy.
Yeah,
I'm very glad that I was able to call him a friend and we all got a chance. Was it his 80th or 85th birthday that we all got together and surprised him up in Stewart? I can't remember if it was
80th. Thing.
80th.
I think it was 80.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was cool that we all got together and celebrated his surprise birthday party.
Yeah.
It was way cool. And because of you telling me the story, uh, I've had a couple of times people have offered me 23andMe genetic thing. I'm like, no, no fucking way. You're not getting my DNA on anything, period. I literally avoid
Yes.
doing crimes because of Peter B. Wright. No way.
Got you. Yeah.
But one thing I really want to I want to highlight because you, Barkey, and Stewart, um, you guys are the driving force behind the Captains and Crew Hall of Fame. And
Well, to tell you the truth, Stewart was, I think, one of the main reasons behind it because what he always said, and he would say, I catch a world record, and my name goes in the book. He said, "Did I catch that world record?" He said, "I couldn't. I can't even do any of it without you guys." He said, "It's a team effort. When you catch a record in sport fishing, it's a team effort. It doesn't matter who you are." He said the names of the crew should be there next to him, and he always felt like it was not right just putting his name in there as the angler. And so he was very instrumental, I think, in getting that going. He turned it over, of course, to Skip when he got real sick and stuff, and Skip pushed it on until the IGFA recognized it as the Captain Cruise Hall of Fame, and it's worked out quite well since then. It's been very, very, very good. I think it's a good thing.
listen, I think first of all, we're very fortunate that we have a passion and we've been able to not only build a career out of it, but we've been able to uh, build an entire industry. And it's a sports industry, no different than uh, NFL or Major League Baseball. There are characters in our industry that need to be highlighted for not only the instrumental part of what they've accomplished, but what they've done to give back.
Yep. Yep.
And
It's so.
I think it's very, very important. And that's I really wanted to maybe spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about how Stewart came up with the idea and his push behind it, and then how later on Skip took it on and made the IGFA actually recognize it.
Yeah, well, he Stewart did it because like I said, he felt like that. He said, I wouldn't have any of these records if it hadn't been for Barky and you being part of it. He said, and whoever our gaff man was, which that changed from time to time. Of course, a lot of time it was Spencer Stratton who did a great job, and it it was important to Stewart that everybody get recognized. It should have been. He felt like, and he didn't feel like that it was just him that did it. He said, I didn't run the boat. I didn't wire the fish. He said, and he said, we wouldn't have caught it if somebody hadn't been running the boat and wiring the fish. So it was, yeah, it was, he was, he was really adamant about that.
I'm so
And
glad that he was because I've
yeah,
been watching it. I've had since I started the podcast, I want to say I've had five or six IGFA Hall of Fame captains on here. Uh, I I interviewed, which this was really cool because I've had the pleasure of fishing with him, was Captain Andy Miserow from Alaska. I had him on. I got to fish with him back in BC before COVID, like 2018.
yeah,
Naomi and I went out there and we fished with him. So uh, I've gotten a chance to get to know him. And so I reached out to him and I'm like, listen, I want to talk to you and I want to talk about, getting into the IGFA Hall of Fame. And then I talked to Kevin Nakamura and little by little, like I said, Eddie's going in this year, and I know I reach out to you that I want to get Skip in here because listen, and first of all, Skip has been very instrumental in my career. He was the one that put my name in the hat to get the job on the Real Tide. I would have never been
all
on the
right,
real. I would have never been on the Real Tide if he didn't say, Eddie, you need to call this guy. Uh,
wow, good,
and
good
then
deal.
yeah, 100%. And then later on, I want to say it was just as Jim Lambert passed away, either right before or right after. So I was right about 34. He said to me, Skip has said a couple things to me in my career that when I repeat it to him later on, he's like, oh, wow, that is something I would say. You listened? And I'm like, fuck yeah, Skip. Of course I listened. You fucking told me something. I listen to whatever anybody says. Now, whether I want to implement it in my life or not, that's something different. But if
Yeah,
you're
you
gonna
don't discard any of that.
you don't discard something. But one of the things that he said to me very, very vividly, and for anybody that's spent any time at Merritt's, where the dumpster is right next to the brokerage,
Yeah,
we were sitting right in front of the dumpster, standing right in front of the dumpster. He's like, you're getting to the age, you're making a career out of this. You're going to have to start thinking about giving back to the industry. And I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, donate some time to speak at fishing clubs or some seminars, uh, maybe do some fisheries. And listen, I've taken it to heart. I've spoken at seminars. I've
sure.
said I've been on
Oh yeah,
fishing.
you do a lot with this industry now. You probably do more than anybody I know
Well,
because
well, for me, I do it because I've learned some tools, social media, and this. All this is an amplifier, is all it is. So let's use the amplifier to promote our industry to people that may not know it's an industry. Offer it up, and that's all I'm doing. And
Yeah, you're making it available to everyone, and that's what's difficult to do sometimes. But it is that's what you're doing,
that's
making
and
it available to everybody.
I talked to a boat builder one time at the boat show. We were having a conversation, and he said whatever, and I said, "Hey, listen, my business is there is somebody out there that's about 50 years old, and they're looking for a hobby, and they're looking at golf clubs, and they're looking at fishing rods. My job is to make sure they buy fishing rods." Once they pick up the fishing rods, it's your guys' job to sell whatever it is that you guys want to sell. I, that's not my cup of tea. I don't,
You,
I'm
yeah,
not a boat
you're just
builder.
creating the interest.
That's it. That's it. I just want to
Yeah,
create the
you,
interest.
you're helping create the interest, which is what a lot of people need.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that that was
It works.
available. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I did, there's so many people, and this is one of my little pet peeves with the media. We can all have our pet peeves with the media. There's enough of it out there. Uh, Whenever you see fishing on a movie, it's always two or three dudes sitting on a fucking dock or a seawall, bored, not catching anything. And it's like, that's the farthest thing from our life. Our life, I always tell everybody there's fishing and there's catching. Catching is actually reeling in the fish. Fishing is actually spending time with your friends and family, telling stories, catching up, getting to know somebody. That's what
Now,
fishing's all about.
I've said it many times, and I still believe it that the best part of fishing that in my life I know for sure is the best part of fishing is the people that you meet, the people you get to know. And I know you agree with that because you've got to know people in all countries in the world almost. And that's it's really fishing has been a pathway to meeting so many unique and nice great people. And you just think about the people that you've known and got to know through the fishing industry. It's just untold. It just goes on and on. And that's the best part of fishing.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
think about at least me growing up, the availability of me as a kid growing up, picking up the phone and calling some of these titans of industry were zero to none. But because of our passion, how many people do we know that their names are on the biggest companies in the world? And we could pick
Yeah.
up the phone and call them, and they're, hey, could you tell them that Charles Perry's on the line? Hold on a second. Charles, what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
think
It's
about the
pretty
people.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You
And,
know?
and they live a different world. I'll tell you one quick story when they, a lot of these people are obviously very well to do if they own these boats, because it takes a lot of discretionary money to own one of these boats and operate it and keep it going and stuff. And one time my first job I had as a captain when I was working for a guy in Donald Leake that used to own Pacemaker Boat Company. And anyway, I was down in Florida. We was tied up there at the not the Sailfish Center, the one next to it. Um,
The Buccaneer?
Buccaneer, yeah, the
Uh,
one the Murray brothers own now. I guess they own it. Anyway, yeah, we were tied up at Buccaneer, and I saw Don coming down the dock one morning, and he had his jacket on. He had a tie on, but it was loose. Well, he didn't wear a jacket and tie hardly very often, and I could see him coming down the dock. And I knew he was not a happy camper. He got down on the boat and he walks into the cabin. He looks at me and he says, "All right, damn it." He had his passport in his hand and he had a bank book there and he had been to a bank meeting and it didn't go like he wanted, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, he looked at me and he said, "Damn it." He said, now he threw it down on the table. He said, "Now you're Charles Perry." And no, he said, "Now you're Donald Leake and I'm Charles Perry." He said, "Now you pay me to do what I really want to do." He said, "I'll never forget it." He was just as serious as he could be. And I said, "Well, Don, does that mean I have to have Jane too?" He said, "Yeah, you can have her too." I said, "I'm out. I'm
I'm
out."
out.
But
Uh,
he
I,
was he was what he really loved to do was just to be on boats and messing around and doing stuff on boats. He liked that more than he did anything else. And he to him that was his ideal way of life. What I was doing was perfect for what he wanted to do, you know. So that always stuck with me that he was
It's
willing to.
important. Listen, sometimes we forget that. Most of these guys, like even Jim, when all those years that I was with Jim, the first day I fished with him, I walked out to him, Mr. Lambert, what would you like for lunch? He goes, "Hey man, my name is Jim. I
Yeah.
put my pants on just like you." And that's really the way he was. He just wanted to
Well, that's the
be.
way most all of the well-to-do people are. They want to be treated just like you and I treat each other. You know, I mean, they don't they don't want to. They're not in a when they get on that boat. They're not in a business meeting. They're there to enjoy themselves. You know.
Exactly. He was, and it's funny because I remember at his celebration of life, one of the quotes I used, when you stepped into the cockpit of that boat, it was like being in Peter Pan's Never Never Land. You never grew up. We
Yeah.
were, I mean, between him and Pete Buenas, man, there was one time Pete, I'm not going to go into why Pete was chasing Jim, but Pete was chasing Jim around the coffee table. We're out in Costa Rica offshore. I don't know, like 80 miles before fad fishing was a thing. And they're chasing each other around the coffee table. Jim is yelling, Eddie, Eddie, he's gonna get me, Eddie. And Pete is trying to tackle him down. I'm like, oh my God, I've got a 70-year-old guy chasing a 60-year-old guy. And if they break something on themselves, I don't mean the boat, I can fix the boat. But if they break something, there's no way we can get them to shore in a manageable time. And Pete
They,
literally launches himself over the coffee table in this merit to try to tackle him. I'm like, what in God's name are you doing? But like you said, they just want to, they're just regular. We're all a bunch of little boys, is all we are.
that's right. Well, I happen to know the story behind that. I'm not going to get into it
Oh,
either. But I know what caused Pete to be chasing him,
oh
and
my
Jim
God.
loved that. Jim loved it with a passion. He loved picking on Pete, and Pete loved picking on him. It was just they really had a good time together by wearing
Oh,
each other out.
they truly did. We had so much fun
Yeah.
all those years. I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world. I
Well,
wouldn't give it up for anything in the
they came
world.
over to Madeira. They right out to Clear Blue. I think Jim decided one time that he said, "Pete, let's go over and fish with Stewart." And they flew over in Jim's plane. They flew over to Madeira and fished with us for 3 or 4 days, and we didn't do them but laugh all 3 or 4 days.
Those
And
guys were
then,
never ending.
oh man, it was nonstop. And Stewart loved it too because he could get them riled up, he'd get them going, and then
Ah.
he'd just laugh.
Well,
Yeah, they were
Pete was
good.
overly sensitive about certain things. Oh, did you ever hear the story where Jim Lambert got up? This was in the baby early infancy stages of cell phones when Jim got a hold of Pete's cell phone.
Oh no, I don't
Oh,
know. There's no
he
telling.
had an old one of those. Remember those old StarTACs that you had to pull the
Flip phone.
antenna up and flip it open?
Oh yeah.
So Pete was going to fill in a piece of his medical center lake and lease it out to Walgreens. And so he called, I mean, like every hour on the hour, he'd call his attorney, Jeffrey Greenberg. And hello? Yes, this is Pete Buenas looking for Jeffrey Greenberg. This is an international line. It's like, listen, we're on cell phones now. You don't, it's not an international line anymore. But whatever. That's just Pete being Pete. Well, tell him to give me a call back at 954, whatever. Jim wrote that down. And he called him on the sat phone. And Pete wasn't very good at hearing. So he Pete, the phone ring, Pete go, hello? Jim is 5 feet away from him on the sat phone going, hey, Pete, this is Jeffrey Greenberg. Hey, Jeffrey, I wanted to call you about the adding the 3 foot of easement for this and that. I've been thinking about that. You know what? You can scratch my balls. Hangs up on him. And Pete looks at the phone and he's like, what? I, I think Jeffrey just told me to scratch his balls. Jim must have called him 6 times.
Oh, I bet he loved that. He
Oh
was all
my
over it.
gosh, we're dying. I'm crying. We're trying to keep a straight face, but we're crying, just trying to stay away. And Pete would, after he'd hang the phone up, Pete would pick up the phone and he'd call Jeffrey's office, and Jeffrey would, Pete, what are you talking about? I never said such a thing, but being I have you on the phone, let me tell you this, this, and this. Okay, it's not 3 foot, it's 2.5 foot. So he'd hang up and Jim would wait 10 minutes and, hey, you know that 2.5 foot? Because he could hear everything. So
Yeah.
he knew exactly what the conversation. Stretch my
Oh,
balls and just kept hanging up on it. I'm like, oh my God, when is he going to figure this shit out? So,
yeah.
uh,
They had fun. That's for
Charles, is
sure.
there anything you think we missed? Is there anything you want to add?
Gosh, there's nothing I want to add, but I don't know. You know,
Well, if there's anything,
not
there's
that I
some
know of.
there's something that I would like to add, and this is for me personally. We have a lot of young kids that listen to podcasts now, and I'm going to send you a picture. I had a young man, he's a mate in Savannah. He sent me a message on Instagram yesterday thanking me for sharing the stories of the people of the history of this industry. And he's
Good.
like,
Yeah, good.
thank you so much for sharing these stories. But one of the things that as people are listening, uh, one of I have, as we talked about, we have a lot of relationships in this industry. When I first started in this industry, uh, I used to read about Charles Perry and Stewart Campbell and Barky Garnsey. And as a young whatever, I was 19 years old, and you were whatever age you were, catching all these world records and catching 73 bluefins. And I got the opportunity to meet you in St. Thomas, whatever year that was. And since then, after meeting you, I've been able to become friends with you. And to me, it's one of my greatest friendships, that somebody that I looked up to as a young man in the industry, that I wanted to make a career out of it. I want to say thank you for our friendship, and also I had the pleasure of inducting you into the Billfish Lifetime Achievement Award, and I just, again, I thank you for your friendship and thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing some of your stories with everybody. I can't thank you enough.
Well, it's a real pleasure being friends with you, Fly, because we got a lot in common, and we when we get together, it's always great. So
We always
we need
have
to
a
get
good
together more
time.
often, as a matter of fact.
Well, I listen. I have a feeling I'm going to be in Manio pretty soon.
Good.
On Monday, I'm interviewing Stacy and Amy Spencer.
All right.
Yeah, I
You're
reached out
pretty
to.
girls, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
well, it's so funny. She's like, "Why do you want to talk? Don't you want to talk to my dad?" I go, "Everybody wants to talk to your dad." I says, "You guys have started this new clothing company, and I
Yeah.
want to talk to you why you guys started the clothing company." I go, "After that, maybe I'll talk to your dad. I don't give a shit. I talk to your dad enough. I want to talk to you guys." And they sent me clothes, and anybody that's listening, if they see the pictures of the awards, it's their clothes I wear so that they can show it off in the magazines. Uh,
Yeah. Good on you.
Again, I know, well,
Yeah.
I know what it's like to try to start a business, and sometimes you just need somebody to open a door for you or make an
That's good.
introduction.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to return the favor. So
You can compliment. That's great. Yep.
yeah,
That's real good.
exactly. So, Charles, if you can hold on for 1 minute, I'm going to sign off here to everybody. Again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Charles for joining us, and we will catch you guys later.